If you happen to follow the NBA and you're subscribed to my The Flight Mike NBA channel, first of all, let me know in the comment section down below. Shoutouts to you guys. Secondly, if you didn't know, yeah, I do have an NBA channel called The Flight Mike where I cover NBA news like I do with the NFL here, but you'd be very familiar with the concept of most NBA fans complaining about how much help does a superstar player need. And in the NBA, typically, NBA fans complain about, quote unquote, how much help does LeBron James need in order to make it to the NBA Finals? Or even more recently, how much help do the Brooklyn Nets need in order to challenge LeBron James and the Lakers in the NBA Finals? And while you don't really necessarily see the same thing going on in the NFL, because the NFL is a team sport, we've seen many times a super team like the 2011 Philadelphia Eagles didn't materialize and didn't lead to much success. As a matter of fact, that Philadelphia Eagles team, which was famously named as the Dream Team, didn't even make it to the NFL playoffs, despite having Andy Reid as a head coach, Michael Vick as a quarterback, Vince Young as a backup quarterback, Nnamdi Asomugha as a cornerback. You know what? I think that's a separate video for a different time. Let me know in the comment section down below if you'd like to see a video on the 2011 Eagles. But in this scenario, whenever you see a player that is supposed to be quote unquote past his prime, like Tom Brady, come in and out of nowhere assemble what seems to be a super team in Tampa Bay and then makes a run to the Super Bowl and wins his 7th Super Bowl, you can't help but be intrigued based off of the way he even built this team. So I'll tell you what I mean in just a second. Before we get to the content, I wanted to let you guys know I'm giving away a signed autograph football of the player of your choice. I will go ahead and buy this football myself to any subscriber that turns on my notifications on this channel. If you have any other ideas for giveaways, let me know in the comment section down below. Also, a huge shout out to our latest Mike Mafia members, Teddy George on the Mike Mafia Soldier tier, and Mario Romo joining as a Mike Mafia underboss. Now that we got all that out of the way, break! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Guys, the way Tom Brady has constructed the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is unorthodox at best. You see, it's very rare that a NFL team will 100% listen to everything that the quarterback of the team says and give him everything that he wants. As a matter of fact, you currently see players like Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson getting into huge disagreements and potentially demanding trades from their teams. Well, in the case of Deshaun Watson, he already demanded a trade and said, if the Houston Texans don't trade me, I'm sitting out for the entire season. Whereas Russell Wilson is starting to get very angry at the Seattle Seahawks, mainly due to this thing that Tom Brady has that he doesn't have, and he came out and even said it. And it's the fact that Tom Brady is granted any wish that he requests from his front office. Tom Brady wants Rob Gronkowski. The Buccaneers immediately trade for Rob Gronkowski the very same day that Tom Brady signs a contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Well, Tom Brady really wants to play football till the age of 45, maybe even later. So in order for that to be possible, he needs some more offensive line help. And who do the Tampa Bay Buccaneers draft with their first round pick? None other than Tristan Wirfs. But boy, we are just getting started. Tom Brady really wants Antonio Brown, but Bruce Arians still has PTSD from coaching Antonio Brown when he was in his early days as an offensive coordinator with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But despite that, the Buccaneers said, sorry, BA, we're going with Tom Brady and we're bringing in Antonio Brown, even if it's against your will. Tom Brady said, hey, if you want me to succeed, I need to see some pre-snap motion. Bruce Arians says, hey, I don't do pre-snap motion. And lo and behold, they give Tom Brady pre-snap motion. They get Leonard Fournette as well as a free agent. It seems like whatever Tom Brady says, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers give him, and that's the reason why you see Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson so frustrated. They want the Tom Brady treatment. Russell Wilson isn't even allowed to indicate what offensive scheme he wants. The Seattle Seahawks want to run more. Russell Wilson wants to pass more. We have a separate video on that. It's a whole shebang that's about 15 minutes long. Deshaun Watson just feels very disrespected because he didn't even have a say in the Houston Texans head coaching search and general manager search, and this comes after the Houston Texans essentially gutted out their entire roster. So when Tom Brady comes out and says, hey, you see this Odell Beckham Jr. guy? This is a guy that I really want to play football with. As a matter of fact, our very first report came out on February 11, 2021, and the report essentially went into what it would take in order for Tom Brady to bring in Odell Beckham Jr., which, by the way, I want to just make one thing incredibly crystal clear. This entire report is a gigantic long shot. I just find it to be very fascinating. I just want you to know that this is a very big long shot. I'm going to tell you what needs to happen in order for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to bring in Odell Beckham Jr. You see, Antonio Brown and Chris Godwin are set to be free agents. I don't even think Antonio Brown would get that big of a payday. I expect AB to return to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on maybe a smaller contract. I'm not exactly sure what the market for Antonio Brown would be. But we all know Chris Godwin is going to get a huge contract, but he's expected to be franchise tagged by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers would have to give up something in order to obviously acquire Odell Beckham Jr. from the Cleveland Browns, and absorbing Beckham's $15.8 million cap hit for 2021 might be a little bit better financially than retaining Godwin and or Brown. And since Odell Beckham Jr. tore his ACL over the past year, you probably don't have to give up very much in order to snag him from the Cleveland Browns. And you combine that with the fact that the Cleveland Browns were very successful without having Odell Beckham Jr. on the squad, and they might be looking for a more durable and dependable wide receiver, and it makes a little bit of sense. But hold on, there's a legitimate source behind this entire thing, which I'm going to bring to you. This is just the very first report we got about a month ago. Odell Beckham Jr. came out and said 2-3 years ago, there was a whole speculation in all that was going on, and I was willing and ready to go over there and play with the New England Patriots at any time. It was always a dream of mine to play for Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Now, we were able to put that entire situation to rest. There wasn't really much to say about that. This was about a month ago. Now, you get to today, and Adam Schefter, which by far is the most legitimate and most credible source we have, goes on Get Up and talks about how badly Tom Brady wants Odell Beckham Jr. in Tampa Bay. To quote him exactly, Adam Schefter said that Tom Brady might want Odell Beckham Jr., but it would be challenging to fit a wide receiver in at that number on top of everything else they're trying to get done here. Once again, Beckham has a $15.8 million cap hit for 2021 and remains under contract for 3 more seasons with the Browns as part of the initial 5-year deal he signed with the New York Giants. Now, Tom Brady is already doing his part. He's trying to create more cap space by reworking his contract, according to Jason LaCanfora of CBS Sports. But there is so much maneuvering that will have to happen in order for the Buccaneers to bring in more firepower, because you have to bear in mind, this is a team that just won a Super Bowl. Typically, when a team wins a Super Bowl, all of these other NFL teams come on in and start poaching pieces away from them. And check out these high-profile players set to hit free agency. Chris Godwin, Shaq Barrett, Rob Gronkowski, Ndamukong Suh, Antonio Brown, and Levante David. Tampa Bay is projected to have $19 million in cap space and probably won't be able to re-sign each and every person. And then you add in the fact that, hey, Tom Brady wants Odell Beckham Jr., and things get a little bit sketchy here. So far, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are trending towards placing Chris Godwin under the franchise tag, which would be about $16.5 million. And then you add in the fact that Mike Evans already has a $16.6 million cap hit, and that's already a very hefty investment in your wide receiver core. It would make sense from the Cleveland Browns end to move on from Odell Beckham Jr. because so far the marriage between the Cleveland Browns and Odell Beckham Jr. hasn't necessarily been the best, but honestly, we didn't really get a full opportunity to see Odell Beckham Jr. in the Kevin Stefanski offense. And for all you know, having a deep threat like OBJ combined with the versatile running scheme that Stefanski implements could be absolutely game-changing for the Cleveland Browns if he was able to stay healthy last year. So, do I think this is going to happen? I absolutely not. I don't think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will have any way of bringing in Odell Beckham Jr. after the fact that they had fairly dependable wide receivers in Godwin and Evans. I understand that Godwin had some key drops in the offseason, but for the most part, he has always been a very good wide receiver. Then you add in the fact that, if you ask me, I think the most important thing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this offseason is making sure that their defense stays dominant, and they had an incredibly dominant pass rush. Losing players like Shaq Barrett and Ndamukong Suh and Levante David could definitely cripple their chances of making it back to the Super Bowl. I feel like this is an adorable report though. I thought it was really freaking cool, and hey, we saw Tom Brady get who he wanted before, so who knows, maybe there'll be some magic he's able to work around to get him. But if you ask me, I feel like the chances of this happening are very, very slim. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about this report? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.